This semester we've been discussing popular genre of literature. We discussed the short story, we discussed the novel, and now we're going to discuss drama, plays. Drama means to act or to do, and the word theater actually means to see. We also discussed critical approaches to literature. We studied the short story using formalist criticism. We studied the novel using historical criticism. And now we're going to study drama using moral intellectual criticism, which I call sociological. Don't forget that. I call it sociological criticism. Sociological criticism considers the values being promoted by the work, the values being promoted, and how these values affect us. More specifically, moral intellectual considers the values being promoted by the work, therefore the values being promoted by the writer, and how these values affect us, the reader. As I said, I'm going to call this sociological criticism. We will assume that most plays are about an issue. An issue is a matter of public concern. In fact, Arthur Miller, who wrote Death of a Salesman, wrote that a play is not worth its ink if it does not pose the question of what is right or what is wrong. Now, where you stand on the issue, or where the writer stands on an issue, the side that we take reveals values. And values generally can be those things that we consider important or not important as far as how we act as part of a group, as part of society. This is a good place to start discussing values. What do we consider right or not right? Where do these values come from? Well, they come from the process of being aware and growing up. These values come from our guides, maybe our parents, our grandparents. They come from our community, from the shared experience of a community. But they also come from our general experience as we continue to grow up and become adults. Do our values change after we experience a divorce? Do our values change after we experience the death of a loved one? Generally, we have values to ensure survival. I would like to think that you and I, as a class, share a set of values where I can turn my back on the class, write on the board, and expect that no one is going to throw me with something. So, values ensure mental, spiritual, and physical health. When a system of values is no longer serving that survival, the mental, spiritual, and physical survival, then it is our responsibility to instigate change. So a lot of plays are instigating a change of view, a change of attitude. In analysis, sociological approach, the sociological approach, has a set of questions. There are certain things that we want to know. What is the main issue of the play? What is it? Is the main issue involving the dysfunction of a family? The dysfunction of a government? Is the main issue a question of self-respect? Of homosexuality? After the issue is identified, and you're the one who has to do that, the question then becomes, where does the writer stand on the issue, and how do we know? What have we seen in the play? What have we heard in the play that gives us an indication of the side that the writer is taking? Finally, where do I stand on the issue? Right? How will the values promoted by the death of a salesman or the Cuban swimmer or Los Vendidos or any other play, how will the values promoted affect me in my community? Corrective action involve, and I will say involve because action is plural, what the play will show to reveal where the writer stands on a particular issue. Which characters do we like? For example, who do we not like and respect? In less imaginative literature, where the question of good and evil is posed, typically we end up liking the good guys and not liking the villains. But in more imaginative modern literature, these issues, these choices that we are given are not as clear cut, and therefore we need to pay considerable attention to what is happening in the play. We might also ask, what are the conflicts in the play? Right? These people arguing in the play. The driving force of drama, you might want to write this down, entails conflicts. People will have to be arguing about something in a play. Who makes more sense in these arguments? Is it the person who walked away? Is it the person who had more to say? Listen to the conflicts of a play. How does the play end? After we leave the theater, after we finish reading the play, what is the feeling that we leave with? Does the bad guy get punished? So if we look at the Cuban swimmer, I think these quotation marks should be turned the other way. By Scott Sanchez, I choose to say that the issue entails immigrants. Why do we have Cubans? Why do we have swimmers? Why are they running a race? Why do we have a copter flying above them, telling them they're amateurs? I look at the play and would like to say that the issue entails immigration, and more specifically, Cuban immigration and the boat people. Those awful policies the U.S. had towards Cuban immigration, one which was called, I think, the dry foot, wet foot. If they caught you in the tube, in the water, you were sent back to Cuba. But if you put at least 1 foot on the beach, then you could stay and go through the process of immigration. Absurd. And therefore, I am not surprised that this is an absurdist comedy. Once we look at all of these things, we need to figure out, where do I stand on the issue? In the previous slide, we determined that the issue is immigration. And the question that is posed is it ever acceptable, right, to place more hurdles on an immigrant to discourage immigrants from coming to this country? That is the question. If you look at the play carefully, you will see that the play implies no. How do we know? Well, by looking at the characters, by looking at the end of the play. I think if this were the question, then the play is telling us that no, it is not acceptable to present so many hurdles to an immigrant group to discourage them. So the next question is, where do I stand on the issue? Right? Well, immigrants are in the U.S. for a real reason, I would say. They're not here to vacation in Florida, or they're not here to go and shop at Walmart. They're here for a real reason. We should not encourage immigration, in my opinion, but once in motion, we should not add to the struggles of immigrants. We should not have these children in cages. We should not separate these children from their parents. I am haunted by the images of the suffering of immigrants that seemingly is there to discourage immigration. Deal with the problems that compel people to want to leave their countries. So this last part of an analysis is certainly opinionated and subjective, but it is a very important part of your analysis. If you have any questions about sociological analysis and the assignments connected to it, call me and we can discuss it. Thank you.